Hey guys, welcome to this video. Today we're gonna take a look at CLI, and that will be a fun ride, I guess. So what do you think, Cody?
Fun is relative.
Yeah.
Uh, but first we take a look at
Oh,
tea. We,
yeah.
w- you know,
Yeah, yeah.
we've been
Never
naughty.
forget. Yeah.
No, don't forget the tea. Um, I prepared something special for you, Manu. I dug out
What?
my old tea set,
Yeah.
um, and I have one where you have like this little fish inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like even in 3D. It's really funny because it was so cheap, this tea set. I really am one of person which loves cheap but nice things, or not cheap but
Oh, I think
inexpensive.
I think I remember that one. We
Yeah,
drank
we,
tea
we
from that.
drank a long
Yeah.
time,
Yeah, yeah. It's a long time
and
ago.
it's so fun doing having stuff like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Just makes the tea. If you have a little koi in your teacup, that's so sweet. I don't know, nothing special about it. It's
Yeah,
just so
yeah,
cute.
yeah.
Um, but today I'm drinking red tea, and most people will be like, "What is red tea?" If
Yeah.
you think English tea is black tea, is in Chinese red tea,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and black tea in China is the fermented pour usually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you order black tea in China, better be prepared for a big surprise because you will not get your English breakfast tea.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, really good one I got from a friend who bought it in France a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, I must really say. Don't drink it a lot, black tea at all,
Mm-hmm.
or red tea, better said. Let's stay on the Chinese side. But yeah, just this one is a real changer for me in that sense. Really makes me appreciate it. If you ever come by, we can drink that one
Oh
too. I
yeah,
think we have like
sure.
10 teas to drink when you come.
Yeah,
we
will be a tea
we get a bit
party.
we get a bit tea drunk then. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
drink?
I'm back onto the Jasmine again, and
Mm-hmm.
just now today I noticed that I have some great teas, but the variety is rather low on my side, so I have to go shopping some near soon or visit you. um,
Yeah, I have some more stuff. I can give you some. It's not the best stuff on the planet, but it all has at least some variety.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
to have something different. Don't get used to the real good stuff because then you don't want to drink anything else. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
variety is king. Yeah, you have to go for
That's how
variety as
nature
well.
does it, man.
Yeah,
Variety is absolute king. The
yeah,
moment you appreciate variety, you're really appreciating life, especially in tea. Then you really are not lost, like you said, in this. Oh, this is
yeah.
bad tea. I don't drink it anymore, or something.
Right,
But yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah. One thing I just came to my mind is the Cuban people, right? They don't have a word for hello or goodbye. They have just pura vida, which means like full life, and I think
nice.
that's nice. A nice way of viewing life, I guess, because yeah, to enjoy the most of it, and variety is in this case the thing to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
for.
yeah.
Yeah, the highs and
Definitely,
lows,
definitely.
bitter, sweet,
I mean, sometimes a
everything.
rainy day is just such a nice
Mm,
experience. You're inside now. It was summer. You try to program, and me too, and it was
yeah,
hot and stuff. But then, it comes this rainy day, and you're just like, it's so
yeah,
soothing
yeah,
until you
yeah.
get pissed again by it.
Yeah, it's a balance thing. Yeah, same with temperature, cold and hot. Yeah,
Yeah, right. It's really, that's how life is.
yeah,
Okay. Then today, yeah, CI/CD, man. Or
yes,
rather, continuous integration. Just we don't do continuous deployment today.
yeah.
Um, Continuous deployment is if you use some action pipelines to deploy your code, but we don't deploy anything really yet. We ship it by
Hmm.
uploading it, but we don't deploy it really. Deployment means for me always to have some infrastructure where you say, start my new program.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a huge topic, man. Super huge because this kind of touches the topic of DevOps,
Yeah.
and DevOps is also pretty huge.
Mm.
For those who don't know it, DevOps is basically for development and operations. So it's kind of people who develop, but also deploy it. And most people don't in the end mostly do deployment. So they're kind of like people in a team who are also concerned with deploying the solution and keep an eye on infrastructure and that everything is running well and fits together and stuff.
Yeah.
And the idea is basically in the past you had the developers and operations teams separate, and now you do it all at once. So you will have that a lot, that you had touched these topics which are not exactly for you when you're just this developer for X. But this is what we said with the variety. It makes you so much better if you don't need to be able to have highest skill in that, but you should at least seen and used it, and without a sweat use it again. Okay.
Yeah. Lose the
that's
fear.
I think, lose the fear, touch it, can work with it, because then later if you want to get a job, if you get those people which are just, I can write the Python API, but I cannot deploy it. You're like, man, this is like, I don't know, like not being capable mixing up the ingredients for your cake, but not being able to put it into the oven and turn the oven on. At least a little bit some basic skills in that you always require.
Yeah.
It kind of feels odd then when you have such skill sets. Yeah, so lesson 5. We'll focus here on GitHub Actions. You used it before, right? In your projects, I saw. Yeah. What's your feeling from it? Do you like it, or?
Oh, I like it a lot. Yeah. So it makes life easier, I think, because I really don't know how to do it otherwise. I mean, you would have to done it manually, I guess, to trigger the actions. But what I like a lot about it is that you have templates for everything, and then you can just see how the workflow looks like, and you can very quickly accomplish something like an action, right? So
yeah, right. Wait, let me check where you can get the templates. Yeah, if you choose on new workflow, then you have here a lot of templates you can choose before. That's really nice,
and that saves you a lot of Googling. Because else you would have to put that together for yourself, right? So that,
you have good starters. For those who don't know it, all a workflow is basically just a YAML file in GitHub Actions, which you put under the .github/workflows directory, and there in that file you describe your GitHub Actions workflow, like running some tests or stuff. And the nice thing is this gets then executed. You can say when. Most of the time you put it on when you push up into the repo or do a pull request. So every time someone wants to do a pull request, their code gets checked just to be certain that everything fits. And this saves your lives, trust me, for all of you out there. So it's basically just this YAML file you're putting together. This is an extremely long one, which I created for all of you with a lot of comments. And this is a big overshot, just that you get a feeling for how thorough you can be if you want to. Like, this stuff here is never finished. Don't believe you can ever be perfectly done with it. That's why you're in the end. In the beginning, you do it rather simple, that it works and stuff. But later you need a DevOps team or someone who's maintaining all of this and has a focus on that topic. Not only development, but also the operations part. So, GitHub Actions. I used GitLab too, Manu. You only heard from it, right? You never use GitLab.
Yeah, actually, in my work environment, I have GitLab because we don't host our projects on GitHub.
Ah, nice. I can tell you, GitLab costs 10 times more than GitHub, actually.
Yeah.
I'm quite serious about it. The price is 10 times. But I have the feeling everything is 10 times better too. Like writing GitHub Actions pipelines and stuff, and how fast they run and all of that. I feel like this is so much worse in GitHub than in GitLab. If you ever get to try the runners there and set them up yourself or something, try it. Like, GitLab is really worth it. Like, I would pay the money for GitLab if I could at work and not use GitHub Actions.
Yeah.
But okay, corporate policy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, the managers were a bit cost savvy there, and now we end up having lots of engineering effort more.
Yeah.
Uh,
You always pay the bill.
um, yeah, there are also other solutions. Popular combination is usually Bitbucket and
Hmm.
Jenkins.
Right. Yeah.
And recently, I interviewed someone who said he loves Jenkins, and this is the first person I ever heard. Never heard a person loving Jenkins,
Yeah.
but I guess everyone is allowed to have their own fetish. For me, no, that doesn't work. Like GitHub Actions is a huge improvement already, so I'm quite glad that at work we at least have GitHub Actions. So
Right.
I better don't rant about getting GitLab.
Yeah.
Could always get worse if the managers come up with silly ideas again.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so you basically have the three choices usually, or there are more of that, but other services like Circle CI and whatever. So yeah, if you choose GitHub Actions, it's built into GitHub, so it would be super stupid not to use it. And like I said, all you have to do is create this workflow file under .github/workflows. Be aware this is a hidden folder, so some of you might not see it when you create it. Yeah. The workflow file, I don't know, Manu, how do you feel about creating this workflow file in YAML?
Mm,
Is it fine for you? Or?
well, yeah. Yeah, it's fine, but on the other side, there's so many different parameters to set there. And actually, well, it can be a hurdle. Yeah. Can be a pain if you don't know which parameters to set. And
Yeah,
yeah,
but let me quickly do my tea.
but
Then I show you something.
it's
Yeah, but
readable. I think. Yeah, that's good.
in VS Code, you actually have autocomplete for that.
Yeah.
Usually what they have behind this, I mean, YAML is basically just JSON, and what they have for these files is usually a file called JSON schema, which kind of tells you how this may look like. And VS Code actually understands that. So if you are here and you don't know what to put, this is a bad place because here, if you are here and you want to put something, you just press autocomplete and then you already have all the keywords you could put here. So
Oh,
sometimes when
okay.
I search something, I see it here, and it works because it has in its head behind the JSON schema file. In Vim, by the way, because you want to go to Vim soon, it's
Yeah.
the same. You can direct Vim to the JSON schema for this,
Mm-hmm.
and then it also has the same features.
Same autocomplete. Okay.
Yeah, really recommend this one.
But this is this automatically set up in VS Code? Is it?
Yes, they automatically have it
Oh.
inside of it already. You don't need to set it up. That's why I always
that's
struggled
convenient.
to move to Vim, because often you need to do in Vim configuration management a lot of stuff manually, and most of the
Yeah.
time I get tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not
'cause I just
enjoying
want to
that,
code.
yeah. Yeah, right. You're getting with Vim, you're getting maybe 30% faster in your typing, but you at least have 70% more work to configure the whole stuff.
Yeah, and the problem is
Yeah.
the initial hurdle for me is
Yeah.
always so
Yeah.
big, especially with new stuff. But okay.
And the learning
So yeah,
curve.
really recommend this one, that you basically use something like VS Code
Yeah.
to set it up and all, and yeah, then have it going. Quite important. This one here is the trigger. There are different triggers on which to trigger. You could, let's just quickly do it manually. Push and pull request. Live typing, that's always good. So you can have different triggers when to trigger. You can do it on a push, when you just push to a branch, then stuff runs in the pipeline. You can have a pull request. That's basically when you open a pull request, or push to a pull request, then it also runs.
One quick question.
Yeah.
If you say push, that means to every branch, or is it just the main branch, or could you specify that it is only on a specific branch?
Yes, actually you can do that. They have different rules for that. That you only run it on certain pushes or on branches, which makes a lot of sense because some sensitive stuff, like deployments, you don't want to run on
testing branch
on every branch.
Yeah,
like
right.
people could deploy into your prod then. Let me quickly check. I think need to check our TRT, which we did a long time ago for fun.
Yeah.
Might have some special rules. Nope. Unfortunately not. It's also
I think
just
it's also covered with the pull request into the main, then the main branch is covered for sure.
Yeah. I must say, I really need to check out. I have too many private projects also.
Yeah.
Just give me. Was it in this one here? I'm not sure anymore. Nah, here I only do it on release created. Yeah, here you basically then see here you can specify the branches. I didn't know the syntax out of my head at the moment, and my autocomplete left me a bit behind. But you can basically then just put it like this. Here, double dot, exactly. This one needs to go one in. What am I screwing up? Constantine. This is not a list. This is an object.
All right.
Okay, now I know the mistake I did. Okay, so you basically set it up like this, and then it only runs on the branch.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility to have a manual dispatch, which is a really, really cool thing. The dispatch is basically an event. It's called workflow dispatch. And when you, let me make that bigger. And when you have that, you get a button in the UI to actually trigger the workflow. We can maybe do that quickly.
So you can test it. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to do that if I debug the pipelines.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm in a pull request already, then I don't need to. I just push up the new changes, and then the pipeline runs anyway. But sometimes we have, for example, let's say sometimes you even don't want to run just checks, but you want to, for example, trigger a deployment manually. You don't want the CI/CD to do that automatically because you want some control or something like this. And then you can use the workflow dispatch, and that's really nice because it can also eat inputs. Like it has some possibility to have inputs and stuff like this,
Perfect. Okay.
with default values, different options and stuff, which is really cool because when you enter it manually, this is basically like building a REST endpoint, but it's hosted by GitHub. It's so odd. I don't know. It feels, we abuse this a lot actually at work because we don't have not really good work architecture, but sometimes you just need some job to run somewhere, and you're like, maybe once a day or something, and then we set up a repo quickly, put up you can also do cron jobs here, so once a day is also possible.
Perfect,
and then stuff runs once a day. Okay, then let's quickly go to the console, zoom in one more, see that we are right. Okay, git commit -m, add manual dispatch, we push it up, and then when we come here into the repo, it's running because we had a push. But you see here, when I click on the workflow here, there's now this button here, and I can choose the branch on which to trigger. That's important. But if there would be other inputs, they would also be listed here down here.
Nice.
So it's really cool. You just put it in, and then you click run workflow, and you're running it. Really like that. Cool feature. Did you do anything complex here ever?
No. Push and pull requests are my go-tos, and I think that's it.
I must say this conditional run if this and this and that, GitHub screwed that up for a long time, in my view. Because the issue was that sometimes you don't want stuff to run on certain branches. Sometimes you want it to run under certain conditions. And then you need to sometimes run on different images, and then you need to want to put some stuff out from here. Like into different files. And this GitHub didn't support that well for a long time. Like our enterprise instance, which we have, still doesn't support it. And it's really annoying because in the end, you kind of have this, it's not clean or neat or something. And GitLab had that figured out hundreds of years ago, already. So that's where we spent a lot of time in the past, where we had this like, Jesus, because the features were not so nicely tailored, we had to break up stuff and have ugly deployment where it should be neat and simple, but just because we couldn't include files properly and stuff like this, really annoying. So be aware if stuff gets complex. It gets complex.
So duplicate files, and also in this case duplicated code, because you have different conditions and a lot of stuff is the same, but you cannot do that in one file. So you have to do that with separate files. All right.
Absolute secret tip I will give you now. This is pro tip. If you really want to impress someone, you do the following. The workflows usually run on a Docker image, right? So you basically have like for those who don't know it, like a fake system, like an Ubuntu Linux, and based on that, your tests or your program will run in that image.
Right.
What then you usually do is, you will see further down, is you install dependencies and then run your tests. And I can assure you that running the test is usually not the problem, but installing dependencies. And this can get really long, and an absolute pro tip is what we do when the pipelines run too long because of dependencies. And that's usually for everything medium complex already. You use a different base Docker image. So you create what we do is we create another workflow which runs once a week, but also with a manual dispatch, so we can update it if we want to. And it's just creating we call it a base Docker image. And what it does is it just takes Ubuntu and pre-installs already all the packages. Okay? And what happens then is later we can take this base image and just run the tests on it. And that's a huge speed up.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all is already on. So that's basically the secret tip. We still run here task install though, because sometimes people during the week change the dependencies, so it installs one or two more dependencies then, but that's not killing us compared to installing, 14 or 15 in the background with Poetry can take some time. So if you really want to try that also in this lesson, I really recommend try to set up a Docker base image, a different one where you already pre-installed the dependencies and run it with a cron job once a week. That's absolute pro tip. If you do that in an interview, people will be very impressed with you. Another cool thing, which I haven't shown here, this is the basic flow, is you can cache stuff. This is what I usually do is, if I'm lazy, you can also cache the virtual environment where the dependencies are installed between runs, and then in the end, if you run it again, you don't need the base Docker image. This usually also suffices. I still like the base Docker image because often you need more stuff than just caching the virtual environment. Sometimes you need to install a certain C library or other utilities around it from the operating system. And basically in most cases where it's get even a little bit more complex, just a little bit over the top, you're better with the base Docker image than caching the virtual environment.
Right, a question here. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but we had this discussion about commercial software like a FEM preprocessor, which takes huge amounts of install time if you want to do that, and custom Docker image would be one solution, right? But I think you talked also about sending certain tests or certain commands to a host machine which has already installed that. How would you see those two alternatives compared to each other in this case?
Um, yeah, I mean, you don't want to run computational heavy jobs on this anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
anything a
right.
bit more heavier, at least not in the GitHub environment itself.
Yeah.
What you can do though is really, really good question, man. I like that. You can register your own runners. Let me see. The menu is always different between work and here because at work we are so far in the past. It's ancient. Uh, you can register your own runner and
All
you
right. Yeah.
basically download it. It's one script or one executable,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can set it up with one command line, and then it runs on a machine
Mm-hmm.
constantly.
Right.
Um, and this runner, whatever is on a machine, you can use. Okay, so if you set up a machine dedicated for running computational jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and you have no problem that it's not too long or whatsoever, and in the background, then yeah, it's okay. Then yeah, do it like that. So you could set up a computational machine with a custom runner, and then it would run on that machine with all utilities also installed, which I highly recommend also. Custom
Mm-hmm.
runners are pretty common. Like in our workplace, for example, the problem is we have different network zones. We have inside our
Yeah.
corporate environment, we
Yeah.
have in the internet, and both cannot do the same. Inside the corporate environment, you can trigger certain APIs, which you can when you're outside.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is, for example, we have different runners inside and outside of the security zones.
Okay.
Um, and then you can do different things on both runners. So depending on the workflow, you can specify a label which runners to select.
Mm-hmm.
And with these runners, then you can do the different stuff. So we say this workflow runs inside this security zone
Yeah.
because it's critical, and we can reach that and that API. This one can run in the internet. We are not bothered by it, you know.
Yeah.
Huge annoyance. I hate it. I would run everything. Nowadays, I would run everything in the internet, but okay, we are getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a
Yes.
test by test basis then, right? So you can do a collection of tests and run that into one workflow, and another collection of tests, run it in a different workflow with a different runner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
It sounds cool,
Um,
but it's complicated for sure.
no. You basically just specify
No?
a label on which runner you want to run,
Oh, all right. Okay. Okay.
just a name, and you can
All
group
right.
them by names. So you can say I have 3 labels with finite element
Mm-hmm.
analysis, and then you would have it would be pushed to one machine of those 3, which can
Okay.
perform that job. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I will definitely do that because, yeah, on my private projects, I had also testing with a finite element solver,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't do that. I mean, it's barely running on a Ubuntu, and GitHub is, well, it's not installing for sure the commercial product, right?
Yeah.
And not to speak about licenses and stuff like that, because if it could install, it would take a while, and then you still have to configure the licenses as well. So
Yeah.
better do that with a runner. So I will be definitely implementing that. Try that.
Yeah. Definitely. Good
Yeah.
idea. Okay. By the way, one thing for those Docker guys out there, if you do this runs on, most of the time you run in a Docker image. This is gonna be the Docker image,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have a big pain running Docker in Docker. GitLab solved
Right.
it already ancient years ago. So if you want to use underneath here some Docker command to do something, you're gonna be screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Half screwed. Why half screwed? What you can do is on your runner, this is a hack trick. I will just quickly mention it. If you don't understand it, just forget it. And if you ever encounter it, just come back to this video. You can mount the Docker socket into the runner itself. Then you can use Docker within Docker. So because the Docker socket through which you start Docker commands is just a socket, like a file, basically file descriptor where you can communicate. That's how it's in Unix. and you could just mount it into the Docker image. Then you have Docker and Docker. But forget it now if you don't understand it. That's fine.
All right.
One last thing where I really need to kick myself here is I didn't do it yet. You see the to-do. I download here task from an install script, and I do two things not. The first thing is I don't fix the version, and you always want to fix the version. Our CI/CD pipelines broke billions of times because we didn't fix the version. Someone pushed an update, and it doesn't work again anymore. Really always fix the version. And the second is always check the checksum. You never download in a corporate environment anything if you're not absolutely certain it's clean. And if you have any checksum next to it, always get the checksum and check if that what you downloaded is really what you downloaded. It's a little bit paranoid, but this is kind of like not negotiable. Definitely do that.
Yeah. I have another question because I came about this. Seems like a stupid question, but you see, run colon, and then there you have the bar. What the hell is the bar saying? The symbol. I don't know how to. Not the backslash, not the slash, but the one in the between. One line above. You have run colon, and then this sign. What the hell is this? Multi-line input, or what is this? Like
in YAML you have different you could write let me quickly change to the editor. If I run a step, essentially I could also I must say this is not nice. In a PR I would get this in the face. You can put it like this, okay, but if the line gets too long, you need to break the line somehow. But also you have a second issue. So lines too long is one issue, but also what is if you want to do multi-line, right? Yeah. So this one here basically is just a multi-line symbol. By that, if I run now a second command, it would simply be run,
Okay, perfect.
So this is first command, second command. So if you want to have multiple, this is pretty silly because I used this from before. Yeah. So you would never do this. You would actually put this away and just put it up and be fine with it.
All right. Yeah.
But okay, we can. If my code base has only this problem and everyone nags me about that, I'm quite happy.
If that's the only thing, you gladly take it. Yeah.
There are other ways to put it. Also, there are things, symbols like I think this one was it, where these things come into one line then.
Okay.
So you can also write multi-line, but then it will in the end be put into one line again. So just that you know a bit, you have to put some input in here, some variety and possibilities how to put in these commands here. And this is quite essential things that you asked that. Let's see if I have, for example, here I have something a bit more complicated I did in multi-line. There you definitely need to have this how is it called? I don't know, concatenation, multi-line inputs.
The OR operator.
The OR operator. Not an OR operator, then, Yeah, thanks. If you have any more questions, always in between, chip in.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Because I was doing that on my exercise improvement, and I was wondering what the hell is this? And I did another stupid thing. I wanted to launch a poetry shell, and then the next command should be executed inside the poetry shell, but that didn't work at all. But I figured out I was just missing a Python between poetry shell and the run file, so that was the only thing what was missing there.
Yeah, that's... you laugh about it, but it happens to me too from time to time, especially when I'm tired. I spend hours with nonsense when I should just have quit work and just do my thing. But of course sometimes your ego grabs you and then you get lost in this stuff. This is not good, And fortunately I get slowly to the point where I'm so tired of having done this that I realize when it happens.
Then you have to quit, because a couple of hours later you go back to the code and instantly get it. So as I was
Yeah.
editing the video, I just thought to myself, what the hell?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that happens to all of us. That's
Okay. One
just human.
one thing I want to show is in the workflow file I have multiple jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I use something. Jobs are just can contain multiple steps. It's a bit a setup thing. I have the job steps: test publish, test install, and publish. And they all depend on each other. For example, here you see it's written needs tests. Okay, so this job here is basically needed here. And you can see this nicely in the UI nowadays. GitLab had that also ages ago. GitHub, it took a long time more to get it. You'll see there's a pattern in what I'm going to tell you this. And also what you see here, there are actually two jobs behind this.
Mm-hmm.
And these two jobs it's running with a test matrix up here. So it tries two different Python versions. This is a bit something specific, but it tries to do two different Python versions. The oldest and the newest usually is the best idea. In the past, I ran all versions in between, but that's silly. That's a lot of money you'll spend on CI/CD and time lost.
Yeah.
And then it kind of tests it for two Python versions. And if you start this, I can tell you this is a devil's hole, because then you will have those, but you ran it on Ubuntu. Did you run it on Windows? Mm-hmm. And then you will add two more runners for Windows.
Yeah.
So be aware, if you do this cleanly and you know your clients use Windows or something, you need Windows runners too. And then you see this fans out pretty quickly. But yeah, just that you get a bit of an understanding for why we did this stuff. Okay. Last thing really neat is you saw that we always put all our commands basically in task, all this complex stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Where you really keeping this in my head. I'm not too keen on that. And this is really neat because not only we can use it in our command line. When, for example, we are in our repo and we simply see the commands and can run task build or something like that, and then it's built. But we can use the same commands here and it's always the same,
Yeah.
All the dependencies are the same.
Yeah.
All the commands are exactly the same. So you see, you get a high reliability and reusage by having task in this case,
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you don't want to do usually is this stuff. This is system setup, that's why it's here, but usually you don't want to have these custom commands here. You want everything in the task file as much as possible, whatever makes sense.
I have another question, Cody. I have to be annoying today a little bit.
No, that's good, man. Otherwise it's too boring in life.
Too boring. Yeah, what I came across is, you see on line 74, you have Python, like just Python, right? And on the task file, you have Python 3. And when I did this on my machine, so in the other file, you have the task file open in the separate editor.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so there's Python 3, line 19 here. So you see, when I wanted to use that on my Windows machine, it gave me errors, right? So I had to replace that with Python instead. So is it if you have Python 2 and 3 installed on your system that it has this differentiation? Or what is this exactly?
Yeah. In Linux, usually you had Python 2 and 3, and when you typed in Python, you ended with 2. And when you run that in CI/CD, you get punched in the face because somehow it doesn't install the dependencies. And of course, again, you cannot look into the run really that detailed. So until you figure out that it was simply the wrong Python version, you lost quite some time, which is very annoying. That's why I'm always explicit about it when I know I use a Linux base image. But otherwise, I would recommend to you use Python.
Okay.
What you can also do here, by the way, is if you know how the image is set up, there's a shell environment variable where you can put in the shell.
Yeah.
And usually inside the shell, you can have something like, I just put it quickly here, like alias Python is equals Python 3 or something,
Okay, yeah.
And you're sure, or let's say if you have conda set up on the Docker image, then it already knows that Python is Python 3.
All right. Yeah.
So you have a lot of flexibility how to achieve that, but you see that setting up pipelines often is a bit like you think you set it up, you run it, you get punched in the face. You do more,
constantly.
you get punched in the face. And it's super annoying. What they haven't figured out yet really is how to debug this nicely pipelines.
Yeah.
Because what you end up is like echo, blah, blah, blah. Let it run. Echo, blah, blah, blah. You know, this is super stupid because there's no debugger.
Yeah, yeah.
But okay, we're patient and get paid very well for idiot things like this.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's always, it gives me a bit more calm when I think about our managers making decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. This workflow I created here is super complex. Most of the time you don't have anything like it. What it does basically is it tests the whole package, then it test publishes it to PyPy. I will get into that in a second. Then it wrong one. Then it tries to install it again and tries if it can install and run it, and if that works, it publishes it for real. Okay, because in the past, for example, I do this. I wrote a lot on common. I had C dependencies and stuff like this, especially in the machine learning area, and sometimes stuff doesn't like each other. You know, so it works out up here well. You upload it, and your users try to install it, and they get conflicts and stuff, and things don't work. So I got a bit, this is too much shot. Like you wouldn't do that usually. Most people, they do test publish first, upload it to test PyPy. If that works, they publish it.
Yeah, right.
So far, so good. Also cool here. This is really neat. I have a filter here. If you can put conditions here, and basically, if I make a tag, you make a release. So just on a release, it will run these steps. Otherwise, let me quickly see. Otherwise, you get this one here. That's simply grayed out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we use that a lot to save computational power.
Sure.
And say, okay, only do that when we run releases or stuff.
Yeah. But by the way, who's paying the bill for all those runs? I mean, GitHub, they are just doing that for free, right?
You actually get minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Depending on your tier and all of that, you get 3 minutes. I think for open source projects, it's 5,000 minutes a month or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much, actually.
Yeah.
But that's how it is.
That's great, I think. So sort of a free lunch. Yeah.
Yeah. It is, but it can also, if you fan this up too much, you realize you get to the limit quick too.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. To the upload, there are two types to upload it. Before I showed that Poetry can upload itself, I often also like to use Twine. I wrote that here, but it has a flag skip existing, and sometimes this is a bit a practical difference. Most people will say, yes, but you only publish once a version. And I say then, yeah, optimally. You know, sometimes people forget to, like you have a workflow bug or whatever, or something has been done and it still runs twice because of a test matrix. Let's say you put this publish step into a test matrix to make your workflow easier from the tests part.
Yeah.
Then it will run twice and it will try to upload twice your package, and your workflow will always fail thanks to that.
Right.
So if you have then a flag like skip existing, these are the little nudges and differences in the deployment pipelines to make them more stable. You put it in and you're done with it. You know, it will get uploaded once.
Yeah.
So you see, they're a little bit like, it's a bit an art if you go into the details of this stuff.
Yeah. And you see here, there's a secret. You saw that in the line above.
Here?
Yeah, you use a secret API token, because that was the thing we put into an environment variable with the exercise, right? But GitHub Workflows can use the secrets. That's what I initially wanted to use, and then figured out I would be doing lesson 5 before 1. And so I had to find a different solution. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Secrets, you can put them in here in your repo.
Yeah.
You can also put them, by the way, is there are for deployment this a feature called environments where you can put them in specific branches.
Yeah.
Just so yeah, for test PyPy, I put in here the token. You cannot see it. That's pretty cool for all of you that you know is you cannot see the secrets. You can try to print them out, but GitHub will obfuscate them. What you can do though is from within the runner, you can write a workflow which sends it to you at home, for example. That would work. So it's not absolutely secure.
Yeah.
But as long as you have the high control over your repo, and especially you protect those secrets on certain branches that the workflow only runs on with those secrets on certain branches, like the deployment branch as main or something, then you're safe. Because people cannot push to main, so they don't have the secret, so they can do stuff in their branches and nothing will happen. So yeah, here I just put it into my repository secrets generally.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nothing to be afraid of here. I don't have contributors, so I sleep well.
Yeah, but for sure workflows maybe also get hacked, right? I think that
you can extract secrets from that. And let's say you have a blockchain project, and there are deployment secrets in the pipeline. Then you can simply tweak around the rules of GitHub and get them out. And I must say GitHub did a really poor job there in the past too, because the branch protection rules and the tag protection rules that certain secrets are only available in certain areas is not new. It's pretty new. It's GitLab was much further ahead there too. So you see the pattern repeats. Yeah. Another neat thing is these jobs can have outputs. For example, here I kind of extract the version I'm uploading with some shell magic out of the pyproject.toml. It's pretty easy for mere humans. I want to have this string here. And then for I need to specify what the output is, from which step it comes. So it comes from this extract version step. And then what I can later do is I have here the needs test publish, and then you can see from the outputs of test publish I can install the version.
Okay, they are linked in this case. You can access them like class variables,
Exactly. And I do it because I don't have the pyproject.toml here, because I don't have the source code in this step, because it would be silly having the source code when you install it, when you want to install it from the internet.
Right.
Yeah. So that you also get a bit of feeling how rich in complexity you can put this stuff. So far so good. Last but not least, this is a really neat trick most people don't do and are not aware of. You can save files with your workflow. So any file you like, you can just save it as an artifact, and it will be available per workflow run.
Oh, right. Okay. I never did that, to be honest.
So if you have special logs, Manu, for example, when running your simulations or something like this, in the end, you can save the log to the workflow as an artifact. And then you can have more information available.
Really I would be needing that because my tests require that I get a simulation output and check some values there. So I have to save that file somehow or get access to it. Yeah.
Also a really nice pro tip. There are a billion more pro tips I could show you with GitHub Actions, but would be a bit long. And like I said, this is infinite. Most important, if you do this stuff, don't just try to be the best guy in the team and do it perfect or whatsoever. Perfect is the enemy of good. I tell that every time. In our team, this has become the paradigm slowly, that everyone pulls out this sentence.
Right.
Because many people, they try, your ego gets too big. You want to do it perfect. You want to be good. You want to show that you can do it and stuff, which is not fine. And they forget the mission. And then they start to build these absolutely monstrous things which are far beyond what it needs to do at that point of time.
Yeah.
Important. In the beginning, you don't do big stuff. In the beginning, you do it a little bit. And then you go forward, and at some point you feel like, this is not holding up too well. Maybe I spend a day tuning this, and you spend a day tuning this, and then it's fine again. Yeah. Only do as much as you feel is necessary, and important is feel, So in the beginning, don't start with this monstrosity I have created here. Start with something GitHub recommends you. And for this exercise, then incorporate different steps here. Really take this one I have here as an inspiration, but build it up yourself.
Yeah.
Do the caching and so forth. And you will have lots of pain already. I can guarantee you, all of you will be busy for a long time. I hope you won't run out in minutes. No.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good. It's good to be up like this, because then you can just look over the file and see different things, and then you have seen it already once you be using that in your projects down the road. So that's totally fair. But don't take this as a template and think that you have to figure that all out in the first step. Yeah.
Exactly. And don't forget, also for me, I learn every day new stuff here, because these tools are evolving so fast.
Yeah, right.
If you haven't used them for a year and you get back into them, or you just read up from time to time, you are like, okay, I can rebuild my entire pipeline basically now. Because, for example, if files including each other is possible in GitHub, then in my corporate environment, I can basically rip apart my entire deployment.
Yeah, right.
So be aware that this is subject to changes,
Yeah, that's why DevOps is also a full-time job, or can be a full-time job.
Yeah, and I must say, this is a bit kids DevOps here.
Yeah.
There are solutions building on top of that, which are more complex for real DevOps teams. Which kind of, let's say most people know how to develop, but they don't know how to deploy. So in the end, they have a solution and a team doing the deployment for the people who develop. If you really want to be serious in a company, but you need to man resources for that. And most teams or small companies don't have that. So don't even start with it.
Yeah.
When you have the need, go for it. And then they abandon basically, or they build on their solutions on top of that, which just utilize behind GitHub Actions or stuff like this. But then you have kind of like the full power and for deploying stuff. I mean, here we just upload. This is not deployment really for me.
Yeah, right.
Deployment is really if you have a server running and you want to update there to the new version.
Yeah.
And by the way, big companies do that by the minute. Not by the minute, but having a few releases a day. That's if you see huge. Twitter, they change production a few times a day.
Yeah. With no downtime, right?
No downtime. That's the thing. And then why DevOps people get paid well.
Yeah.
Because ensuring no downtime with rollbacks, and usually you have a staging where you redirect a few % of the traffic of your users to your staging environment to check if it's holding up,
Yeah.
So you see that it's quite delicate doing good DevOps. So this is infinite almost. Like for me, it feels still infinite in a way, because you can always put in more effort and more security and all of it.
Right.
Yeah. No. Do you still have any bothering questions or anything you would like to know about workflow files, Manu?
Right now, I cannot think of any. I think what I just maybe want to comment is how neat it is to have task here, because you have to just concern yourself about the versions of task but the poetry from that point of view, the poetry and the task file in combination, they cover the rest. And I think that's so neat. Instead of doing that manually in the workflow, that would be a pain, I think. So,
especially since you then have the discrepancy between your local machine and the remote machine. And
right,
you really don't want to do that if you debug stuff. This is hell. This is really hell.
So task is great.
Yeah, it is. It was really a big revelation for me last year. Best tool I learned to get to know too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But besides that, all good. Ready for implementation on the exercise. I think I
Then
will
go
do
in,
something. Yeah.
try out workflows, start with a simple one, all of you out there, and yeah, suffer through the pain of debugging action pipelines.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal.
Yeah. Lots of echoes.
Lots of echoes in there. You can try to get secrets out. That's maybe fun exercise too. I don't know. Please don't try to get our secrets out.
Yeah, hopefully not.
No. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I know that well enough. And get used to this very odd syntax stuff. I don't know what GitHub thought of this, but okay. Then
right.
thank you very much, and happy coding to all of you.
Yeah, see you in the next video. And if you want to comment, like, subscribe, do that. Hop onto on our Discord. We will be there frequently, and just ask some questions if you have any. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.